We are live, guys, in 2025, and this is Coach's Corner. Today, we're going to talk about annual planning. We're going to do some reflecting, and we're here with Tiffany Dutcher and Shane Thompson, franchise business coach, franchise operations coach. And actually, those job titles got shifted during our annual planning meetings. So, how are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Awesome. Well, let's jump in. Before we jump in, I want to just start with the background of how we do annual planning meetings, and then we're going to jump in and do a little reflecting on last year and with you guys. All right. So here at A Place to Home, we and our coaches talk to our owners consistently about what they want to achieve. When you sign a franchise agreement with us, the first thing we want to do is understand what you want to accomplish over those 10 years of your franchise agreement, and even going into what's the exit strategy. Are we looking to renew at the end of 10 years? Are we looking to make this a legacy where you leave it to a kid? Are you looking to do your 10 years and sell? We want to figure out what they want to accomplish over that 10-year picture, right? Then we break it down into a 3-year picture. So when we first meet with the owners after they've onboarded, we want to do their 10-year, their 3-year, and understand what that 3-year is. Now, the biggest thing about doing your 3 years, you put that on a board. We use a coaching sheet, so I'd recommend having a coaching sheet. And on that sheet, we put those 3 years, and those items are revenue, billable hours, any type of measurable that you want to measure and accomplish over that 3 years. And then that 3-year picture is set. You do not move it. So whenever you do an annual planning meeting, some people will tend to say, all right, what's the 3-year? You don't move the 3-year until you hit your 3-year, which at our Place Home franchise, our headquarters, we're in our 3rd year. I think we found last time, guys, we're a little off, but we're not far off from hitting our goal next year. If you guys remember that.
Yep.
I do.
And then we break it down into this year, which we just got done talking about this year and making our rocks and what we want to accomplish as a brand with our coaches, with our franchise owners, with our system as a whole and marketing. And then we've broken it down into the quarter, which now we have our quarter objectives, also known as rocks. And then we break it down into a weekly scorecard where we measure the system's success. And for franchise owners, same thing. You make your annual goals for the year. Let's say it's $1 million in revenue. What does that look like in billable hours? What's your gross margin? What other items operationally, financially do you want to achieve? And that's for over your year. And then every quarter you make 3 to 5, they call them rocks. We use the EOS model. They call them rocks that are going to accomplish that. So for this episode, we're going to kind of reflect and go through that process internally and just talk about the entire process individually and what you guys think about it and how you think of your rocks and goals. So you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. So let's look at last year. So whenever you do a planning meeting, you always start by looking at last year's numbers and last year's accomplishments. So that's where we're going to start. So Shane, what was the proudest professional moment in 2024? And how did it impact the team, do you think? Now, you were with us a short time. You're on the back end of 2024, but you've had an impact on the last quarter and a half that you've been here. So what is your proudest professional moment?
I would say my proudest moment is working with owners who have a really deep desire to grow. They're passionate about the business, may be lacking some of the efficiencies to really get that done. So where I find kind of where I link in is be able to come alongside of them on those key items. Like, you need passion and compassion for this business, but some of the business efficiencies of really looking at. So one of the big things is working with owners that have a lot of passion for the business.
Awesome. And yeah, I mean, you got moved. You were titled franchise business coach. And due to that, what you're most proud of, what you just talked about, we've created a coaching system where you're more operations focused and systems focused. And so just in that first 4 months, we've already adjusted and got you into a role that you really enjoy. I mean, I think so anyways. Otherwise, you wouldn't have brought it up to us. All right. So great. What's one personal And this is important. You don't want to just always talk business when you do annual planning meetings, because you want to talk about what you personally accomplished as well. So what's one personal thing that you accomplished in the last year?
I think it's very important to earn the trust of owners. Being a former owner and having business coaches working with me, it was very important for me to trust them and them trust me. And so I knew going into in the very beginning of building relationships with owners, I did very little talking. I listened, I observed, I've kind of just did a lot of just personal relationship building with them, and then really earned that trust. And it's kind of outside of even the portfolio of owners that I was assigned to, just a lot of owners that began to reach out to me. And the big thing is just a personal trust of the other individual. So I think owners just have my personal goal, and my big win was just earning the trust of owners out there to speak into their world. And I'm definitely not a know-it-all, and I'm definitely a student of all processes, but at the end of the day, it's about another person pouring into another person.
Absolutely. No, that's a great one. And I 100% concur that the biggest thing you have to gain with any business owner as a coach or a mentor is you got to earn their trust. So awesome. Tiffany, what is one key success story from your role last year? Same question. What are you most professionally proud of in the last year? You both started around the same time. So, and it looks like you're frozen. Uh-oh. We always have an issue.
Yeah.
Well, I can play the role of Tiffany.
There you go.
Maybe she'll jump back on.
Go for it.
I'm going to remove her and let her jump back on. All right. Well, Shane, it's you and I. I'll see her jump back in here in a second. You know, one thing I would say Tiffany's most professional is her bringing Texas together. She really focused on, she's down in Texas, and she's responsible for all of our owners in Texas. So she's kind of gone on a circuit. She has met every owner, I believe, face to face in the state of Texas thus far. Gone to all their offices as well, and understand what their goals are, and is really pushing that state, since we have 7 to 8 owners in that area. It was a big focus of ours as an organization to make sure that they're all on the same page. And I think that she successfully has gotten everybody into a collaborative effort in the state of Texas.
Good.
I would say personally for her, this is dangerous. Let's see. I have no idea. She got married. I'll do an easy one. She got married last year.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. She got married. She's on to a new chapter of her life and business. She got a new job with us all the time. And she's moving around, and I see her hopping right back. Here we go. Let's fact check us and see if I got her.
Sorry.
Tiffany, I played you. I did yours for you.
Did you? I would love to hear this.
Oh. Well, let's see if we're on the same. Personally, what do you think is the biggest accomplishment personally for yourself?
Well, there's 3. I got married, I moved, and I started at a place at home.
Bam, so, that's exactly what I said.
Changes you can make, I did within 5 months?
Yeah. Spot on. Professionally, I said, you're not going to get it probably, but I said that you took on the role of the Texas liaison essentially, and have really focused on bringing Texas together, and you visited every owner. You've been to all their offices, I believe.
Yep. I actually was going to focus on Texas, and 2 of the owners were brand new right out of the gates. We've got them up and going. I would say especially one of them, I really pushed him out of his comfort zone, and he took off really quickly. So I am really proud of my Texas bunch. I would say that's one of my biggest accomplishments.
All right. Well, I don't want to just speak for you. Are there any other big accomplishments professionally last year?
Just like Shane said, getting to know my owners, relationships early on are really important. I think a few of them, really were afraid of the sales part, and I love pushing people out of their comfort zones and just kind of kicking them out into the field. And I would say I've done that with a few. Even up in Omaha, they're really starting to get out of, out there a little bit more. They have a new sales girl, and so I'm really proud of that as well. We touch base daily.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's jump into the 10-year picture. I'm going to use you guys as examples as a planning meeting. All right. So let's say we're sitting down, we're meeting. You're the franchisees. You started the home care business. So kind of keep it in mind there. So we're going to walk through this exercise. You guys ready?
Yes.
All right. Starting with Shane. Shane, if you had a crystal ball and you saw yourself 10 years from now, no, let's just do this as your current job. It's going to be way easier because you probably have personal goals. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
Well, growing the owners with a place at home. It's incoming new owners, existing owners that have a vision for more territories, just the expansion mode. It's really pushing owners outside of their comfort zone. Sometimes owners get complacent. And so I feel like my job is like a hot poker, and I can help them kind of, but not necessarily like in a bad way, but in a way of coming alongside of them and been there, done that. Here's where you can really grow. And sometimes it's taking someone out of their comfort zone when they're too comfortable because they put someone in play that they feel like is the miracle worker. But that could actually be their ceiling, and maybe it might be. So just having someone look outside of themselves and where they need to be at in the next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. So I see myself as that, that coach that just building leaders in the network is really what it comes down to, and within each of those franchises.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to add a little coaching here. We want to put a tangible number on it. So like we call them SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. In that 10 years, you've pushed these people. That's what you want to do. Let me say, how many locations, knowing today's facts, that we have currently one location at about 4.5 million. We have one location at a little over 3, and then a handful, a good bunch right at the $1 million mark. So one of the things we talked about is we want to have $2 million agencies more than ever this year. We want all those $1 million to be at $2 million. So from 10 years from now, where do you see our largest location?
Largest should be easily, minimally should be 5 million. There's one owner that I have in mind right now that I think by the end of the year, for a year and almost 2 years, she'll be over, between 4 to 5 million, and on a 10-year track, easily could have multiple territories and easily pushing close to 7 to 8 million. And with multiple territories, she could be easily sitting at 10, $11 million. So I don't think you ever saturate a territory. You continue to build it to the ramp. So you never hit a place where you're like, oh, I've got the entire marketplace saturated, so I can't grow anymore. So some of those owners I foresee in the next 10 years, they're sitting around the 1 million mark, are going to be $5 million operators. Those that are around 2 million, 3 million, they're going to be past 10 million. They're, and I think as a coach, those are tangible objectives to hit with owners for them to be able to be successful and for the brand to be successful.
Awesome. All right. So I heard you say 12 million. So do you think that a place home in 10 years could have a location doing at least one location, or one owner, maybe multiple locations, one owner doing over 20 million?
Yes. Yep. They would have multiple franchises, but yes, they would be over 20 million.
All right.
I think we're in the hunt. I think there's 4 of them that are in the hunt that easily in the next 5 to 7 years will the ramp will be definitely headed for that big number. It'll be over 10 million in 5 years.
Awesome. All right, Tiffany, 10 years. Where do you see yourself personally? And what's one company goal that you want to see accomplished in 10 years?
So I think the cool thing about where Shane and I and Jennifer came in is, we're 3 years in, like you said, so we're a little bit smaller, so we can be a part of the change and the growth and the development. Shane with operations, I would love to see ourselves continue to grow where we have sales training when people bring in a new marketer or salesperson, and we have different programs for them where, you don't have the year learning curve that you might have on your own. So my goal is to have, a very robust sales training program in place. And I think, since I've been an owner, technology has come such a long way. The things we have available, the way we use Zoom. So there could be some really cool things we do on a national level for sales outside of just the typical commercials and stuff. I'm a dreamer. I like to see the big picture, but I think that there's a lot we could do with sales that might, get us above the curve of other home care agencies.
Okay. So you got all these new sales toolkits and things that you're working on, and in 10 years, they should have an impact, right?
Oh, for sure.
So where do you see, Shane went for the big one owner over $20 million in sales. How many people, I'm going to ask you in the middle, how many owners do you think will be in the $10 million revenue time frame? If they're maximizing, you froze again. Oh my gosh.
Well, I think if she's frozen, I think you're going to have at least a good half a dozen that in the middle core that are going to be growing. It could easily be the $10 million mark.
For sure.
If you look at the big agencies out there and their growth ramp, and knowing the history of a couple of the big ones, they had some owners that grew really quickly within 10 years, multiple franchises, and had top dollar revenue.
Okay. So in our goal, let's break that down. So we have those individual owners.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at our vision, we have said we want to be at 233 locations
in 10 years.
In 10 years.
Yep.
With doing around 300 million total dollars in care.
Mm-hmm.
So at least an average of a 1.2, 1.1 per location during that time. I think that's definitely realistic. Team wise, going to be a lot different. We got what, 8 of us or 9 of us right now.
Yep.
So that's very exciting. All right. So we've done our 10-year picture. Now we're going to jump in and do our 3-year picture. It's a little bit easier to do, right? Now, what most people think is what a lot of people, there's some level of analytics behind here, and you don't want to be way off the mark. So you got to do some homework. But we've done that. But again, sticking with your guys' positions and what we in our organization here, but then on the home care side, in terms of total revenue dollars, that's what we measure. What's our 3-year goal? So you said one location at 20. What do you think the biggest location that we're going to have is going to be in 3 years? I'll start with Shane on that one. The top dog. Top
dog will be at easily between $8 to $10 million.
8 to 10 million.
Yeah, in 3 years. I think the track, the ramp would put them at 3 to 5 years over 10 million. So 10 million for sure in 5 years. 3 years, 8 million.
Okay.
Probably even greater than that. So, yeah, I think you obviously you got to have the systems and processes and to sustain that, but with proper growth in that. So, yeah, I look at that.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about that. So now you have an $8 million agency. We're going to use the 8 million 3 year. And let's break that down into, there's a part where you have to answer this question: what does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
And so you just talked about infrastructure. Why
Yeah.
don't we talk about that a little bit? Is what does an $8 million agency look like in terms, or not, maybe not even an agency, the owner may have multiple locations, but what does that infrastructure look like? You have experience at an $8 million owner. So what's the infrastructure look like?
You need to have something that is multifunctional across all of the franchises. So you have an executive team that's managing everything from a top level, and then internally you're duplicating that into each of those franchises. So depending on the lowest number will depend on what that org chart is going to look like. If it's, let's say they're doing at least $1 million, now you have an org chart for each one, and then all of that rolls up into an executive team. So each location is going to be different. Not every location is going to run the same, but all processes will be the same across all offices. There'll be variants of regulation, but the way the infrastructure would work is all your client facing, all your caregiver facing, everything would look exactly the same. So you take for us, Florida, we ruled everything on ACA regs. So ACA regulations was X. So everything from Florida to Georgia to Ohio ran off of what would look like an ACA regulation. Georgia's pretty similar. So when you start matching that up, you run the offices off the most strictest regulation. And then you want a one operation. So every office is doing the same systems and processes, just at different, skewing it at different levels of the ramp that you're on. So if you have an office that's doing, 1 million versus 4 million, or one that's doing $8 million, the ramp is going to be a little different of what your down structure looks like within that organization. So it might be a little bit more heavier on the marketing. You might go from a scheduler that's maybe doing 2 or 3 schedulers that are handling 10 to 15,000 hours to a one scheduler that's doing a block schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the way of how you think in the process of how you grow that. So each office, you look at the metrics. How do you go to that next level without burnout? How do you take your team without adding a whole bunch more other people to it, but making like your business is streamlined, and each of those job responsibilities is to that place of growth, where they're at in that growth system.
Okay. Now, Tiffany, he talked about infrastructure, but someone has to send the business to. What does the sales referral sources look like on that? What's the payer mix? Let's start there.
Yeah. So
$8 million on straight private pay, do you think? In some markets, maybe, but in general?
No, I don't think so. I had a payer mix. We did workers' comp. Now we did do skilled, but I wanted to go back to the question before my internet went back off. I think that our biggest office within 3 years is right where Shane said, maybe between 8 million and 10 million. When I sold 10 years ago, my best year was at 4.5, but that was with antiquated systems. We had paper timesheets and notes, nobody checking in, nobody clocking in, So if I was able to do that in one territory, then there's no reason with all the technology we have now, people can't far surpass that within 3 years. Now for sales, I think that we do have to get the CRM in place that we've been talking about. I think it's going to be important that we track. We see, what's working, what isn't. I do still think there's a huge opportunity in hospitals, but I think we've got to work on a good sales system and being able to take care of those patients very quickly because they're not there that long. So, putting things in place on Shane's side, making sure they have a team of caregivers ready operationally and everything's sound there. I think that sales definitely will get you next level. The systems are important, but then on top of that, you've got to sprinkle in the sales to get you.
Sure. All right. And I agree. And one thing I'll add to this one is one big push corporate agenda, I guess you would say, from us is measuring the outcomes of our clients. Really, truly show what our hospitalization and readmission rate is of our clients. truly show any preventative measures that have happened to keep people healthier and staying at home as opposed to going into the hospital. You know, that we've talked about it multiple times, that for home care to become serious healthcare contenders, we have to have the data to back it up, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of data that we have right now, you have like Home Care Pulse and Care Insight, the Insights company. I think they rebranded to Activated Insights. We've been in partner with them for years, but a lot of their data comes from the opinions and surveys of agencies, right?
Yep.
I don't want to not. I'm not knocking. I love that book. I love looking at it. I love reading all the opinions. But my one thing about it is that it comes from opinions of owners, so they could be skewed or misrepresented a little bit if those agencies who are taking that survey don't actually have real data to back up. It's just an opinion that they're giving. I mean, I'll be 100% transparent. When I did the survey for Home Care Pulse 6-7 years ago, I was answering questions off the top of my head. I wasn't actually going in and digging in and looking where was my number one referral source in my head. I think it was skilled nursing, right? And so if you have a bunch of owners doing that, well, then that makes data, and that's good. People are going to see that. And if it's consistent, right? If it's consistently skilled nursing, everyone obviously is thinking skilled nursing is where it's going. But if we're actually measuring that stuff for referral sources, one, but like how many hospitalizations did you have? And you have a report that you can pull and say, hey, out of the 450 clients that I had last year, I had a 12% hospitalization rate, which then tells you that's about 12%. That's about 50 clients out of 400 went to the hospital last year. It's pretty good. Then if you break it down into how many of those readmitted in 30 days after discharge, and you say 10% of those readmitted, five of our clients were readmitted to the hospital last year. And then if you could break it down to the average hospital dollars spent daily, which is like 15 to 20 grand, you can then say, I saved the hospital system. I cost the hospital system. I didn't cost them, but I probably saved the hospital system if I had 5 out of 50 readmit. Let's just say that I think the normal readmission rate's like 20. You saved over $100,000 to $200,000 of readmission dollars. That there is what we need to get.
That's a very important metrics, is the readmission. If we as a home care agency, when I talk to owners, we're looking at the client acquisition rate, client retention rate. I think the other one's client satisfaction rate, and then the churn rate or readmission. That's your biggest thing is, are we doing a good enough job as an agency to help them age well in place without them going to the hospital? Are we connected with those other agencies, OT, PT, home health, whatever it is, to help that individuals remain at home or where it is at? So that way we don't lose them back into the hospital and it costs the hospital. That's why hospitals now are looking to partner more and more with home care agencies, because to see, hey, this was very important for us not to have this particular patient have such a revolving door readmission back in. This costing us a lot of money, and as well as time for this client coming back or patient coming in.
Exactly. And I want to be clear here. Like we've been talking a lot about revenue, and we are a business at the end of the day, but we are taking care of people, and our clients come first, right? So not only should we be showing monetary savings to our systems, to the system, right? It's the health and wellness and the mental savings that we give to families, to the senior themselves. Once a senior goes into the hospital for, let's say, any broken hip, an actual accident, not just maybe like anxiety or something like that, but an actual episode happened, that's a long route. That's a long road back if you even get back to where you were.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So, if we can prevent that and show that we're preventing that, not only are we saving money, but we're affecting people's lives in a positive manner that they wouldn't have had those resources had we not been able to show the system, right, of the impacts that we're having on them.
Yeah. Very
so All right, let's sticking with the 3 years. I'm going to go to each of you guys individually now. What's your personal goals from now in 3 years? Tiffany, we'll start with you.
My personal goal?
Yeah, 3 years.
Let's see. I mean, I accomplished a lot this year. I'd like to get more balance in my life. It was big changes this year. I kind of put off some of my health goals, getting in the gym and stuff. So just getting a good balance and operating from a place of balance and never chaos, I think, is one of my big goals. I've always thrived on a little chaos. And I think as I've gotten older, I've learned that's not necessarily good.
Sure.
So that's probably one of my biggest goals for the next 3 years. And I think it'll help not only personally, but professionally as well.
And keeping my computers from breaking. Appreciate it.
You gave me a bad.
All right. Never broke for me. Shane, let's see here. Shane, what do you got? What's one thing you want to accomplish in 3 years?
Well, we'll probably be traveling more. I want to go to I've been a lot of different places, but I'd like to remain a little bit more in places than just a touch and go. So maybe spend a couple of weeks in different places, do more traveling. I think it's you want to for experiences and not just keep putting money in the bank and be like, hey, someday I'm going to take this. One of my personal goals for 25 is to travel more and be more involved in just, not only my family, but just in my network of friends out there in the country and in the world. So there's a lot of different people that I've met in my course of life, and they live in different places around the world, and just want to reconnect back with them instead of via chat. So yeah, I'm doing more traveling just personally, and just health is always a big thing, and being around for my family. So that's kind of a big initiative. So.
All right. It's funny. You both said, Tiffany, you said balance. Shane said travel. And we just did that annual planning leadership lab with our owners last week, where we asked a good handful of like what they want to do on their, this year, what are they focused on? Mm-hmm. It's funny that the majority of them said take a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other majority of them said balance in my office, building the infrastructure. I think that's the two things that are really starting to emerge amongst a lot of business owners, is finding the balance, building the team, and then utilizing your team. So this is for home care owners. Utilize your team, empower your team. This is the messaging that we gave them last week. I think this was just last week.
Yep.
Use your team, empower your team to let you go on vacations. And when you're on vacation, shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So many people will keep their emails open. I'm definitely prisoner to that. I'll be out of town. Jared's out of town right now. I'm a business partner, friend of a long time. He's in Disney. And shame on me. I've been emailing him, asking him stuff. But shame on him, he answers. So then I just keep emailing, right? You got to shut it down, right? Delete your email app off your phone. Delete your chat app off your phone. You can reinstall it when you get back. But that's the thing with people. If I were to say the same thing, like you ask me what I see myself in 3 years, I hope to have a full-blown leadership team that's, I don't want to say under me, but like doing the things that I'm doing now, which we're starting to build, right? Having a CFO, a COO, we don't have those yet, those two positions. I think in 3 years we'll have those positions for sure. I think having a CDO, Chief Development Officer, is on the verge. And then letting those three, between finance, ops, franchise development, and marketing, a CMO as well, I think we will need to emerge. Once we have those 4 spots, that will free my time up, not to not work, but to say, hey, you 4, let's talk about this. You execute the plan. And then me and Jared are sitting there working with those 4 individuals, those 4 levels, to take it to the bottom. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, leadership, it's all about growth. And so when you start to build your own personal infrastructure of the corporate office and the team, you're doing kind of what you're preaching. You're now taking time and you're stepping back and you're empowering others to lead the organization. And I think you look at all the successful agencies that were founded by a husband or wife or whoever founded it, you'll look at they early on put mechanisms in place for an executive team that then took the whole mechanism to a whole another level. And so I truly believe in that level of leadership where you're building leaders are empowering and growing other leaders.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I hope I can do that. I am kind of I'm getting better. You guys haven't actually, you two haven't really fully experienced the micromanaging side. I've really grown, but you can talk to Danny, the only one who could have handled it back in the day. But I've come a long way on that. I'll tell you that. All right. So that's 3 years. Now let's go to the 1 year. So this next year, I would like to I'm going to start. I would like to see us have 10 locations this year that are over 2 million. I think we have 12 to 13 in the 1 million area right now, which is like makes up, I think, 35% of the system, right? If we can get 10 over 2, that would be a huge goal of mine. That would be the professional. My personal over this next year is I don't want to just go to travel. I think that this next year I want to be more, I would say, balanced. Kind of go on Tiffany's back there and say I want to balance myself, my like family life versus my work life. I think we finally have the infrastructure to do that with all you guys who came on in August, right? So that would be my personal, is finding more balance there. What do you guys, Shane, this year? If you're going into your first full year of a place at home, what would be the biggest personal accomplishment next year?
I personally want to see the core of owners get to $2 million. I think we've got a bunch of new owners that are coming on, and I'm excited to see where their growth is going to be in the next year. I think we have some even owners that are under 1 year. I think they're all posed to expand, and it's exciting kind of with this kind of new rollout that we're doing, kind of look at the infrastructure of each of these owners and how do we set them up for success. So my professional goal really with them is to see them, the core of them, to hit some real markers and blow it out of the water and not be at the end of the day so stressed out that they can't sleep. But I tell people when I visit with them one-on-one, you're going to get to a place where all you do is sleep, eat, drink, a place at home. You're just thinking about it. And when it becomes second nature to it, now repeat that and build that into other people. So you're not spinning all the plates. And and then I think in just 1 year, I think personal growth is just continue to build myself as an asset to the organization and to owners. There's just a wealth of information I have that I can provide for others to be successful. And so there's no sense in bottling it up and putting it in a book and selling it when you can give it away and work with people so that you can see that duplicated.
Awesome. All right. I think you're well on your way. Tiffany, what do you got?
So my goal for this year, I think, is we change the coaching structure. It's really going to help when Shane gets everybody, sound with their operations, where once they have the operations in place, they can truly focus on getting referrals from professional referral sources going out in their market. So I think maybe we have 1 or 2 owners that are getting maybe 60 to 80% of their business from professional referral sources. I'd like to see at least 4 or 5 of my offices start getting most of their referrals from professional referral sources. But that's going to take getting their operations more sound. And I think we're well on our way with the new coaching structure.
Yeah. All right. And then personally?
Oh, the next year?
Yeah. 2024.
Personally, it just goes back to being more balanced for my family and for everybody involved in my life, getting, some things put back in place for my health, working out, things that I love that help with my mental health as well. So I think putting almost structure in my life where the next few years will just take off after that.
Nice. So you just made your New Year's resolution. There you go.
Did.
Didn't you say that you quit drinking energy drinks?
No, yes.
I saw that. You said that, and I just saw you take a drink of that, and I'm like,
I didn't have creamer for my coffee, so
okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Go back to the drawing board. It's been a day. All right. Well, let's see here. So that's your year. I want to talk about scorecards. So Shane and Tiffany, you guys, we have a standard scorecard. We're not going to go through our standard scorecard. If you'd like to learn more about our standard scorecard, it comes with a franchise fee and a franchise agreement. However, we can talk about
We'll sign you up.
We'll sign you up. But however, we can talk about how you develop a scorecard. So just in general, right? So the way a scorecard is for our organization, and what I've learned personally is that you don't want a big one. So many people go out and make like 30 different items. You don't want that. You want like 7 to 10 items that if the rule of thumb that I learned from the book, Traction is what I learned this from. And if you were on a deserted island and a bottle washed up on shore and it had a piece of paper in it and it was a scorecard and you pulled it out, you'd be able to look at that scorecard and tell the what are you talking? The success of that location. Is that a healthy business? Does that make sense? Yeah. And so in home care, what are some key performance indicators that will go on that scorecard? We're gonna name 10. We'll kind of go around the room and then why. How about that? Don't give away the bank though. First one I'm gonna steal is revenue. Why? Revenue makes the business tick. Mm-hmm. All right. So I would look at our revenue every single day. I would look at our revenue and forecast it in the month. And I think about our WellSky system is you can look at, if you schedule everything out months in advance, which we typically teach people to do, you can forecast and see how much is scheduled for that month, which is great because then you can kind of budget yourself that month and then see where you're growing. So revenue is number one. Tiffany, what do you think is number two?
Your margins.
Margin? Gross or net?
Your net.
Net, bottom line?
Bottom line.
What's a good one? Would be a score.
Well, it depends on how soon you want to sell, but yes, net as well. I think where you put us 50%.
That's gross.
Oh.
Net's bottom line. Gross is after.
I always try to stay above 14%, between 14 and 16%.
Okay. I think that's a good number. So we got net, we got revenue. Shane, what do you got? Another one.
I look at it a little bit differently on those, but operational efficiency is another big metric. So within that, your employee utilization, caregiver turnover, how well is scheduling efficiency, the training compliancy of this, overtime. I look at all of those metrics within that operation.
This is one item.
Just operational efficiencies.
All right.
All tied to
well, that's one is turnover percentage.
Yeah.
And how you figure it out.
Call it turnover.
Yeah.
Turnover falls within all of those areas. So.
Yeah. So turnover, and how you find out turnover is, oh God, what's the formula? It's how many active you have during that time, during a certain time frame, and then you divide it by how many you've lost in the same time frame.
Yes.
And that gives you your turnover percentage. And as we all know, home care is pretty hard. Healthcare in general has high turnover. Home care is really hard. So it's a huge metric to watch.
Yeah. And you always find those owners that do really well in that And so, because the national average is really bad. And if you look at one owner that's doing really well and you kind of find some best practice, I tell owners throw everything that you can, mud on the wall to see what can work. Because we've got such a turnover rate is so high. So if we can throw one idea out there that drives some of that turnover down, great, you know. So, but yeah,
I think that'd be a good coach's corner.
Yep.
In the future. How to reduce caregiver turnover.
Mm-hmm.
There is a magic hat for that. I'll go to number 4 really quick. I'm just throwing one out there. It's customer satisfaction. To me, my customer satisfaction percentage is huge. I would look at it all the time. I think 90% is realistic. You're always going to have there. I think you got a customer service metric. I just got a question from a customer service metric. What we use is a company to survey. So we have a company, Home Care Pulse, now Activated Insights. It's going to confuse me for a very long time. Activated Insights calls a percentage of our clients every single month. We make all of our franchise owners that have over 10 clients utilize it so that there's a good sample pool. And they call and ask on 5 different topics. Caregiver I'm going to test myself. Caregiver compatibility, impact, I believe, overall satisfaction, training, right? Mm-hmm. Are their caregivers trained? And there's one more. I can't remember. Oh, communication from the office. Now you want to talk about a small, finite detail that the lowest satisfaction percentage that I always find when I look at people's, what do you think that is? Which one out of those 5?
Communication from the office.
Communication from the office is always the lowest on everyone's scores. And it's not bad. It's usually in the mid 80s, but that's always the lowest. So what that tells us using that is that I would be talking to my office members and make sure, hey, call a handful of clients once a week. We've talked about this before. The way to prevent client turnover and caregiver turnover is just simple little details of communication to them. Mm-hmm. Call a client one day and just say, hey, want to check in? How's your day going? Don't call the client and say, hey, I just want to make sure my caregiver's there. I saw she missed clocking. If you're always doing that,
I'll always say this. I bet that score is lowest on the happiest clients everywhere else, because a lot of times the happiest clients out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. They're the ones not getting communicated with.
Yeah. I've gotten burned by clients that have been with me for 2 or 3 years. And it wasn't because they weren't happy. It was because they hadn't heard from anyone in the office in a while.
Right.
So I think client satisfaction is huge.
Yep.
Number 5, Tiffany, what's another one?
KPI. Well, we did employee turnover. I would say maybe driving referrals from professional referral sources. And I say that because that's your book of business when you sell the business.
So you're talking referrals.
Yep, referrals. And maybe conversion rate with that.
Okay. We do measure conversion. So referrals and conversion. Removing the paid leads. I say paid leads don't count.
Nope.
Right? All right. So referrals and conversion. That's a good one. Shane, what's a 6th one?
Brand recognition.
And how do you measure that weekly?
Surveys to clients, and it's Google reviews. It's like, SEO, how are we reaching our demographic, client demographic. Return on the investment is another way to measure that. Social media engagement. So I think a lot of it's driven, making sure you have a pulse of the demographic that you're in, the community that you're in, and making sure your brand has a piece of that pie. So measuring that is SEO driven. Marketing, digital marketing is a big driver of that.
Okay. So Google reviews, I can tell you right now, that is a metric that we measure everybody. We made an investment. We have 672 reviews across the A Place at Home brand with a 4.8 average across the board. In addition, we just won. Did you guys see that? Another metric is we won top 50 franchises with the best franchisee satisfaction out of like 250 brands.
That's good.
So not only do we measure our customers, we measure our franchisee success every year, which makes us here. We'd be hypocritical to say, hey, franchisees, I want to know your satisfaction rate. And then in turn, we turn around and we measure our franchisee satisfaction rate of headquarters. So we're held to the fire too, and we take it very, very seriously. So that's coming up in February, by the way. So Tiffany, be nice to your owners.
Okay.
All right. Number 7, I'm gonna go back to what I previously said on client satisfaction, and then piggyback on that. Employee satisfaction is another measurable. We also measure it through the same company, Activated Insights, and our employee satisfaction is usually like 93. I think our average is like 93% on most locations.
Mm-hmm.
It's the age-old saying, like, happy caregivers provide happy care, which in turn you have happy clients, right? Same thing. Put in those small details. Random acts of kindness is what I call them, to your caregivers, and that's a whole different topic that we'll talk about on the details that you put into your caregivers. But for time's sake, we have 9 minutes left on this episode here, and we have 3 more to get to. So, Tiffany, what's another one?
So I think Shane talked about field employee turnover, but I think office employees, once you get to a certain size as well, making sure that we're keeping office staff and able to grow. If we're always hiring new people and retraining, that really stunts our growth.
Okay. Office staff. So I'm going to add this to this, but to measure office staff retention, because our office staff is pretty small, it would be hard to measure that. I mean, you lose one person, you say, shoot, I just had 100% turnover. You have one person on active, you know what I mean? But how do you keep that office staff? And I think one thing that you can measure is how many trainings are they taking a week, developing them, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Shane, what's your last one? And then I'll do my last one.
Quality of care.
And how many hospitalizations did we have last week? How many changes in conditions did we have last week? Things like that.
Well, none so much that. It's, client complaints. Are we meeting the need of the care plan? Or how many times in a given month are we doing a quality assessment? And is the care matching up with what the existing care plan is? When we start to engage on those assessments, we build relationships with those clients. And so quality care can also be on the caregiver side. So we're measuring that caregiver. I just had a conversation with an owner yesterday on the measurement of quality care of the caregiver. Is those caregivers doing what they were trying to do? Are they delivering at 100% efficiency to the plan laid out? And who's coming in to lay eyes on that? And making sure that you're checking a box to say, yes, you're doing that properly. We're ensuring, because our clients are paying top dollar for a premium service. And we're pouring a lot into our caregivers for them to be the tip of our spear to provide that service to our client. So we have to have a measurable. There's got to be a measurement in there to ensure that quality of care on both sides is being delivered.
Absolutely. All right. And then the last one, I'm going to go back to finance. Accounts receivables.
Yep.
Accounts receivables.
Especially if you have multiple payers, not just private pay.
100%. I mean, just all of it.
Well,
yeah. We've caught a lot, not a lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but we've caught owners who are just crushing it numbers wise. And then all of a sudden they're $30,000 in the hole with debt, with people who owe them money. And it's like, what's going on? And that goes back to what Shane, what you talked about, your processes, right? Yeah. Bill on Monday, everybody ACHs. right? You're going to get a handful of clients like, I don't want ACH, I want to cut you a check. And if they do cut you a check, you set guidelines to that.
Yep.
That, hey, I bill every Monday, I pay every Friday. If I send you a bill by Monday, I expect to have a check before Friday.
Yeah.
Right.
We're at a bank.
And then we have a rule, two checks deep, care gets paused. It's not that we don't want to care for you. It's that at the end of the day, we are a business.
Mm-hmm.
And we do want to help you, but we don't, it's not like we can go to caregivers and say, hey, you know what? I haven't been paid yet, so I can't pay you this week. Right. Well, that's national news waiting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't do that. So you got to work those ARs, measure those ARs, and otherwise it could really hurt you. So we have 4 minutes left. I just want to close out with from one of you, each of you guys. We'll start with Tiffany. What's one major accomplishment with your owners that you want to accomplish in this quarter?
So a lot of my owners are approved for VA. A lot of them only have 1 or 2, if not, they don't have any. So I'd like to see us do a big push for VA clients with some of my owners. Now I want to keep, it where that's not the majority of their business, but I do think that there is room for them to grow their VA clientele.
Okay. So VA growth. Now what's the measurable there? How many vets on service? Do you know where you stand right now with how many vets you have on service?
A total with all of my owners, I'd probably say less than 10, maybe 15 with 14 owners.
I'm thinking through your owners right now. Adam and Trista, they don't have.
I think they have 5 or 6 right now.
Okay. All right. Shane, what's your one goal with your owners? Other than your 15 audits?
I would love to see more of a leverage of technology. We need to leverage what is there to stay competitive in the marketplace and to stay in the competitive field with other home care agencies that are utilizing it. So I want to see owners within the first quarter step up and really start leveraging some of the technology that's available out there. It'll help increase their billables. And in some cases, not even need to have a caregiver be present. And so I think on that principle, they can definitely utilize us.
Awesome. So technology, VA, I would say for me, I want to complete an 100% buy-in on change in condition and hospitalization tracking in our WellSky system. So I do know that everyone has access to Care Insights now. Just signed that contract last week with WellSky. And they should all be activated within the next couple of weeks. And we need 100% buy-in. That is my goal for everybody.
Yeah,
so
that's a big thing I'm pushing with those owners to get them to become more second nature with that. Mm-hmm. And we got to get buy-in from the caregivers as well. They've got to be involved in that.
Has to be top down. We take it to the owners take it to their staff takes it to their caregivers. So that is how you annually plan. We didn't get to spend a lot of time on the quarterly, but we just ended with a quarter. And now what do? We meet every single week as a team and we talk about our goals and our scorecards, and we measure and we see everything, our vision come to fruition. So thanks guys for your time today. I'll let you get back to coaching. Yeah. Tiffany, I know you got a call here in 1 minute. Never stop. So I thank you guys, and we'll talk again. I'll talk to you probably in the next 5-10 minutes.
Sounds good.
Happy New Year's.
Bye.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Bye.
Danny, I missed the thing.